How's it going, guys? This is Ryo Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. I thought it would be nice to sort of like make a video related to photography galleries, and that was actually another goal that I had set for this year, but I never had the opportunity to make a video on it. And not many people know, like 98% of you guys live outside of Japan and outside Tokyo. You guys probably don't know, but in Tokyo there's like hundreds of photography galleries in Tokyo that never get sort of like mention on YouTube because the majority of people are Japanese, they don't speak English, and they don't run a YouTube channel. So I'm like the only person doing this, but there are hundreds of like photography galleries within Tokyo, and I thought it would be nice to like sort of like make one video dedicated towards that. And ironically, and it was a coincidence, but one of my teachers who taught me 4x5 film photography back in the days actually was holding a gallery in downtown Meguro, and this gallery is called Jam Photo Gallery, which is roughly 10-15 minutes away from Meguro Station. Meguro is like on top of a hill and you have to walk downwards. It's actually located near the Meguro Gawa River, which is famous for flooding. But my teacher was actually running a gallery for roughly 2 weeks, and I thought it would be nice to sort of like visit him because I haven't seen him ever since the pandemic started, and just talk about photography in general. And I really wanted to do sort of like an interview, but unfortunately I went during the weekends and it was packed with people coming in and out, and I could not do sort of like an interview type of thing. But to give you guys sort of like an idea what a photography gallery would look like in Tokyo. And my teacher's full name is Ishida Kenji-san. Background information for you guys, like I said, he taught me 4x5 film photography back in photography school when I went to a photography school in Shibuya, downtown Shibuya. And back then I used the 4x5 by Horseman mounted on a typical GITZO, the perfect combination. I would never lug that around, unfortunately. And unfortunate to say, I never went into the path of 4x5. And his sort of like Ishida Kenji-san's work revolves around architectural photography shot in infrared style, actually. And back in the days, he actually shot in film. However, when everything shifted from film to digital, he's actually took curiosity in that field, and he sort of like wanted to sort of like imitate that infrared look in the digital type of field. So his work right now, he shoots in digital, however he sort of like manipulates and converts that file, the digital file, into that infrared look. And I don't know the sort of like the confidential details of how he does it. Okay, so this gallery, which was open for around 2 weeks or so, portrayed Ishida Kenji's work of photographing ordinary plants, however converting them into sort of like infrared type of photography. So you get sort of like this distinctive type of color. It's sort of like hard to explain to you guys. I can only give you guys the video and the image, but infrared photography, it's hard to like explain from my mouth because I never tried it. But you get this sort of like really super contrasty type of image, and because he's sort of like shifted from film to digital, he's sort of still like trial and error kind of in terms of like how he should like sort of like add the colors back into the image and stuff like that. So this was actually a really unique gallery in my opinion. And obviously Japan specifically, I don't know about North America, but in Japan, when a gallery is about to happen, or when it's like happening right now, the what I call the owner or the person who's doing the presentation of that gallery typically sends out these postcard size type of sort of like image on the front, and then on the back side it basically tells you the location, the time, and also the person who's doing that gallery. This is actually a cultural thing in Japan, and these get sent to like photography schools, to art museums, and there's actually a dedicated location where they stack a bunch of these like postcards. That as of 2023 we have these types of galleries going on within Tokyo, and there's this sense of like connection going on. So I really wanted to do some kind of interview, and I actually brought a microphone. Unfortunately, I was only able to go during the weekends, and it was rather interesting because it's been a while since I've been to a photography gallery. People kept pouring in and out of this small gallery, and there's these small prep talk going on between the friends and families who know Ishida Kenji back in like school days, and also people from the JP, what was it, the photography communities. I mean, they come in and they come out and they say how you're doing, how's your health going, those typical conversation. And this is like one of those great things of having a gallery. You have this sense of like connection with the locals and the people. And also sometimes teachers from the exact same school come visit you and they give you these random comments, saying that, oh, you have this weird type of composition. How do you achieve it? Kind of. It's like really hilarious to hear those kinds of conversations going on. So, and there's like so much to talk about his gallery. Where should I start? So number one was like 2-3 years ago when I visited him last time. I think he was using a Sigma DP Merrill 1 or 2 or 3. I forgot which one it was, but I'm not an infrared type of guy, so I can't explain much. But if you guys know about Sigma cameras, if you're doing infrared photography, Sigma is the one to go for, due to the fact that if you guys know about Sigma, they have this distinctive sensor called 4-Von sensor, which unlike typical CMOS sensor, picks up the color super accurately, the RGB, the separately R and the G and B, and because it records it individually, you get a super sort of like realistic image out of your, or a clean type of image from your camera. And when you convert it back into infrared, I guess you get a really super contrasty type of image. I never tried it, so I can't say much, but typically he was actually using a Sigma camera like 2-3 years ago. But what surprised me was this time he was actually using a Canon M6, if I'm right. When I was talking to him, like, are you still using that Sigma camera? He said, no, I actually shifted to the Canon M6. And if you guys know about digital, the Canon M6 right now goes around for $200 to $300 US dollars used. And I was like, what? Kind of blows my mind. And he kept like saying that the camera is basically a tool in achieving what you really want to do. And it's just a object. And obviously, because it's a tool, there's are good tools and bad tools, really expensive ones, but in most cases those super expensive equipments, I mean, you can't achieve some type of like look and stuff like that. And we were having this conversation, and interesting enough, he also said that like you really don't need a super really expensive camera to just do your job. I mean, if you're a sports photographer, you need that burst rate, but if you're a product photographer, you might not need that, so like cameras nowadays are overspec'd. I mean, you really don't need that much of like autofocus trackability and stuff like that. AI focus, do you really need it? I don't shoot portraits, so I don't need it. So there's these like things that you have to like keep in mind when you're trying to get a new camera, like is it really worth it and stuff like that. So, and also like digital camera specifically, the price is going down at a really fast rate. Professionals who used professional cameras back in the days, those cameras are really cheap now, like 5D Mark II, 5D Mark III. They're like almost less than half the price of the original price Nikon D700, D800, Nikon D3. You can buy them for $1,000 or maybe less than that. So there's like so many options available, and he was using a Canon M3 and not M6. So, and he said that he sort of like changed the white balance and sort of like converting it to a specific color profile, and also using the IR filter, the infrared filter, to get that look, and also tweaking a little bit in Photoshop to add a little bit of color, add a little bit of saturation and stuff like that. So that was like really surprising after visiting him. Okay, so after like looking at the galleries, I was like curious because this time around he did not print large prints. He actually printed in really small prints. Like this was like what, A4 A4. The frame was less than A4, if I'm right, in terms of size, and the photo was less, like 2L size or something like that, if I'm right. And I basically questioned him because the colors, he typically, because he does infrared photography, and generally it's monochrome, black and white, but this time around it was in color, and it had deep like colors, specifically the what you call the had us. It's hard to explain. It's like it had really rich colors, and I kind of talked to him about the printing, and I anticipated that he used some kind of a pigment dye ink pigment printer. Actually, those really expensive ones. I talked about printers in one of my videos, difference between a professional dye print dye ink printer versus pigment based printers, and he said, and this shocked me, he said, I used a multi-function printer, you know, one of those like printers that have like scanning functions and stuff like that. And I was like, similar to the Epson that I actually mentioned on my videos on my channel actually. And I was like, what? You used a multi-function printer for this gallery? And it's like really important to say that the equipment doesn't matter. It's like what you want to present to your audience, and if you can achieve that with the least amount of equipment, that's still great, you know. But that kind of blew me off, and I was like, oh wow, then how much did this gallery, like how much did it cost in total? Kind of, I should have asked him how much he used for this gallery, because the print size is small, the frames are small, the what you call, and also the location is rather small and compact. So that was like one of the things that kind of caught my attention in a good way. So, and what's also great about these like photography galleries, especially in Tokyo, is that I'm not sure about North America, like photography galleries, but in Japan, it's not a law enforced, but it's highly regarded that the artist has to stay at the gallery for a really long time. Like you have to be there, like in Japan specifically. I mean, there are times you can like take your day off and stuff like that, but it's kind of sort of like a norm to be at that gallery. So typically when you go to a photography gallery in Japan, in most cases the artist is actually there. I'm not sure about North America if it's like empty or something like that, but in Japan the artist is typically there, so you can basically like casually talk to them if you have any questions and stuff like that. And because he was actually my teacher, I was actually talking about like did you have any regrets and stuff like that. And he said that like everything doesn't go in a straight line. I mean, there are mishaps, there are mistakes, and one of the mistakes that he made was actually like the matte kind of selection. And if you guys do galleries and stuff like that, when you print your photo and we frame it into a sort of like a frame, actually, you have a back panel, and you have the photograph that sits on top, and on top of that there's a matte type of sort of like what you call how should I say, it's like it kind of levitates the frame a little bit, and also kind of makes the frame line, the borderline of the image, it's sort of like a cutout in the middle. And in Japan specifically, you can actually, if you go to Sekaido, which is like an art store, you can basically designate how big that, you know, inner cutout should be. And he said that he cut out too much, so you could actually see the outer side of the photo. And one of his monochrome like works, you could see the outer like area, the surface area actually, of the photo, which was like tinted grayish monochrome type of color. And he said that it looks ugly. It was like, but in my mind, it looked really nice because there was this sort of like gradual fallout from the photo to the gray outer area, then the matte area, which is pure white, then the frame line. I actually like that type of like presentation in my mind, but he said it doesn't look good. I mean, that's personal perspective of your work. So okay, that's basically it on my sort of like coverage of jam photo photography galleries. I don't know if you guys like these types of videos, but I thought it'd be nice to just make one video related to photography galleries. And honestly, like these photography galleries, they open from, I don't know, 11 to 12, and they like open for like a really short duration, like closes around at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock typically. So if you have the time, if you have the energy, it's great to like learn from other people what they've done in the past during the pandemic seasons. Like my teacher was asking me what was I doing in the past 3 years, and I was like making YouTube videos. He was like, is it profitable or is it profitable? And I said, I can't say much, but I don't make that much money on it. But it was a really rather interesting sort of like conversation, because he's already in his 60s, 70s, if I'm right, and he doesn't know much about YouTube, the platform, and not many people in Japan actually do what I do, like make videos related to photography, and also I myself shoot photos and present it to you guys. And he was like curious about that, if there was any kind of opportunities. And yeah, that's basically it on my coverage of Ishida Kenji's photography gallery on Plain Plants at Gem Photo Photography Gallery. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, this is my first time, so don't go harsh on me, but I hope you guys got some kind of entertainment from it. So yeah, we will see you next time. Peace out.